wash off all that greed and those dirty deeds from your past. You said that we were friends, and then you put a gun up to my head, tried to make amends. No, not today. Wake up and smell all the roses. Maybe then you will see how it is that your neurosis isn't good for you or me. Baby, baby, you're so demented. Go find a cure, I'll give you my blessing. An apple every day won't be enough to keep doctor away from your mental state. Farewell till then. Wake up and smell all the roses. Maybe then you will see how it is that your neurosis isn't good for you or me. Wake up, oh wake up, wake up. Your neurosis isn't good for you or me. Why, oh why do you act this way? Don't you see you're making a very big mistake? You swallowed up your pride to take a bite of someone you love's life. Such a sad demise. What can I?
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is so fantastic. I'm sorry for everyone standing, but we're thrilled that you're here. Thank you so much to Aran, Cucine, to everyone on the team who made this happen. We're in this incredible space, this stunning space. And thank you again for being here. I am the editor-in-chief of Interiors Magazine. My name is Aran. More importantly, I am a girl that loves to eat, and I love to throw a party. And I think I do one better than the other. But this is such an exciting topic for us because entertaining in the home is not only passionate and social, but it's one of the few forms of self-expression where you can be completely creative as a designer. You're not listening to client wishes, you're not adhering to someone else's tastes, you are completely unbridled in your vision. You get to create an elegant fantasy with food and design, share it with friends, and have some drinks. So thank you so much for being present for Eat, Design, Love. I'd like to introduce our incredible panel. First, I'd like to introduce you to Josiah Citrin, who is the award-winning executive chef and owner of Melis in Los Angeles, a 2 Michelin star restaurant. And we have June Ho, who is an interior and furniture designer, and Christopher Kennedy, an interior and furniture designer. So I thought it would make sense to start in the kitchen. Pretty smart. So I wanted to pose this to Christopher. So we've come pretty far from the hearth and the fire pit. We've evolved.
I haven't.
You haven't? And we've gone from kitchens being downstairs, a la Downton Abbey, and now there are these incredible spaces, design-centric, multiplex rooms, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you see the relationship between kitchen design and entertaining.
I see it as one of cause and effect. I guess I think it's so important to ask our clients how they like to entertain and how they like to use their kitchen. And I have a funny story about this actually. The Liberace house, I just finished his first house in Palm Springs. And he sold it in 1971 to this lady who owned it for about 30 years. And then my clients bought it in 2011. And when the former owner had it, honestly, it looked like a Victorian whorehouse. Like, I'm not gonna mince words. It was red and gold and cherubs on the ceiling, and my clients bought it, and they're from Pasadena, and they're in their late 60s. I know that's not old, but I just saw her as like, you know, a little old lady from Pasadena. So I thought they would want this formal kitchen. I mean, it was Liberace's house. I designed this beautiful formal kitchen. And the old kitchen was maybe 10 by 12, because it was from the 40s, like we said. And then it was like next to a small eating area and then sort of a maid's quarter. So it was a small warren of dark rooms. We blew all that out, made it one big room, you know, 30 feet of glass that pocketed away on the courtyard garden. And I designed this beautiful kitchen, kind of formal with a big eating area, like a big, you know, formal dining room table. And my clients look at me and they say, "Christopher, we should probably tell you this. We like to party." They're like, "We like to have cocktails, we like to have our friends over, and if we eat at home, we don't, and we just go to the club after." So, and they eat at the club. They really didn't want a dining table in their weekend home in Palm Springs. So, point being, ask your clients how they like to entertain before you do all the work. So I redesigned it. I redesigned it to this big sort of U shape with a center island, and then coming off that island was a 4-foot by 8-foot bar height like piece of quartz that was sort of a de facto table, but there was a bar that they could belly up to. And they're a lot of fun, let me tell you. So I think it's really important that we find out how our clients like to entertain or how they like to entertain and don't make any assumptions.
June, what do you think in terms of the modern host, the kitchen?
Well, I think kitchen is certainly it's a very important part of the house right now. And it's funny that growing up in Asia, a lot of times people didn't realize that in Asian cooking, that in almost every single household has two kitchens. One is a wet kitchen, one is the kitchen just to beautiful to look at, so you don't use them. So when people come over, you have a beautiful kitchen. But you know, kitchen has become such an important part of the house that you know when you have when you entertain, everybody gather in the kitchen, and you know nowadays the homeowners spend the most money you're doing a kitchen than any other parts of the house. And when you try to resell the house, and of course it's the most important part of the house as well. And so definitely it's been evolving over the years.
How adventurous do you think your clients are with the design? Are they willing to really, we have some gorgeous examples here of that super sexy disco-phonic magenta color in the back. Is it hard to influence them, let's say, into thinking differently and more risk-taking with the kitchen?
I think for my client, because of my aesthetic, mostly I'm more, a little bit more quiet. I love to use more natural material and understated colors. So I think when they come to me, they already know that I will never create a pink kitchen for them per se, which is nothing wrong with that. I think they take more risk in terms of the configuration of the kitchen and also some of the new appliances and new gadgets going on into the kitchen. I think that's really what they're looking for. So.
Well, that's a perfect segue for Josiah. I'm dying to know what your home kitchen is like.
My home kitchen, since I designed my home when I was really in this Provençal stage, it's pretty simple. We have a 6-burner stove, not even 4-burner stove, a little griddle in the middle, but I have a big green egg right out the door, which is amazing barbecue, smoker. But my kitchen's open from the dining room to the kitchen's open. There's a counter in between. I think since food has changed so much, the way we look at food now in America, I mean, it's everywhere. So I've watched the change in my lifetime as a chef or as a cook. I've seen it change so much in what people are looking for in food. It's a food craze right now. We're where Europe was 100 years ago, where this food craze is going on. But it's amazing, and I think it's all around the food and the gadgets. And I mean, you look around here, there's so much great things in the kitchen. There's the induction heat, which is just catching on, which is going to be huge as we go along. But the funny thing is, you mentioned the hearth. And now cooking on the embers, so chefs are starting to go back. Now we're going back. This sous vide thing is huge. A lot of chefs are going back. So soon you're gonna see, in 10 years, home kitchens are gonna have open burning fires. Because chefs we're really starting to cook back on the embers and slow cooking the meats on the side of the fire. And you'll see that in the next 10 years, because most trends, they follow what we do in a professional kitchen, and then it comes out, it goes around. People want what they have, and the flavors that are created and the ambiance that's created in the restaurant.
How long does that take with the wood burning? You know, is it?
It takes a long time.
That's
So
what I thought.
I have a fireplace in the restaurant. We'll put wood on one side, and we'll put racks here, and we'll put turnips, or we can do squash, and we'll cook in 6 hours. It takes 6 hours cooking slowly in there, so the natural juices is pretty amazing.
So you have to kind of take that into consideration if you're having people over.
Yeah, but the party starts at 12, we eat at 9 o'clock. It's like the Mediterranean.
No, that's true. That's true. So I'm wondering, when you entertain, how do you like to entertain? Do you like to invite your guests into the cooking process with you, or do you just like get out?
Well, it's funny. Most of the entertaining I do, I work most of the nights, so I don't entertain tremendously at home. I go to Mammoth for a week every Christmas, and I pretty much end up cooking for 25, 30, 40 people every night. It ends up.
Off duty?
On the mountains.
What's two more?
Exactly. Come on by. And, so I do invite people in the kitchen a little bit to cook with me. The best is one of my best friends is Dennis, so I kind of make him my kitchen slave, right?
What is your address and your phone number?
In Mammoth? Okay, in Mammoth, next time. I don't know, I have to ask my wife the address. I don't even know the address. I just want to get there. But I like to bring people in, and usually though I get to the point where it comes time to eat and I get in stress mode, I go right into what I am like in the kitchen, and then everybody says, this guy's in a bad mood, what's wrong with him? But then, because that's my job, so I kind of switch into this mode at the end. In the beginning starts off friendly, drinking wine, but then I get out of the kitchen, go, get out, I gotta get this food up. If it's not good, they're gonna say, this chef can't cook, so it's gotta be good. So, but I like to involve people in it, and you know, it's fun. It's fun for everybody to be involved and to see the work that goes in, and maybe how I put it together and use the, for example, the warmer, a kitchen warmer, and how I get everything ready and put it in the warmer before, and how I create the meal that it comes out hot at the end, which is huge.
What types of meals can you cook kind of collectively, communally? Is there something that you can kind of invite a bunch of people who are just sorry in the kitchen to help with? I mean, is there?
Well, I think making pizza is a fun one. I mean, it's a great one, right? Because in the Big Green Egg, you can make pizza too. So pizza's a fun one. I think, you know, if people bring something, it's fun. They could bring it in from their home and then kind of help finish it, or.
What if you don't like it? What if you don't like what they bring? What do you do?
I always like it because it's with love. I'm not here to judge people's cookies. That's the biggest mistake people make about chefs. We don't judge, especially if we judge chefs. We're very judgmental over chefs. But when people cook for us, we're the easiest people to have over for dinner, and we're the people that get least invited to dinner anywhere.
Because it's intimidating, award-winning chef coming over to my house for pot roast, no thank you.
But we love just the love that goes into it, and just someone actually cooking for us. It's the best.
Do you ever get together with other chefs, or is this some big myth that you all get together for Sunday dinner and you trade stories and you cook together?
Kind of, sometimes, always, never. We do get together sometimes at barbecues or maybe a 4th of July party. But usually someone's always working, so it's hard to always all be together. Yeah. But we do try to get together probably once every 2 years.
Oh, nice. Catch up.
That's right.
So, Christopher, I wanted to ask you, how do you like to be entertained? I'm flipping the question around. When you are a guest, what do you like?
I think I'm pretty easy. Kind of like Josiah said, I like to be included. It's nice when someone invites me. I think people just think that we're always busy, and it turns out like I'm kind of not, like, you know, I work all the time, and so I often don't get to go out. And I do think that intent or love, as he said, is really the most important thing. I think whether you're a guest in someone's home or whether you are the guest, I think, you know, 2/3 of it is the intention and the care that you put into it. So, yeah, I'm pretty easy. Like, I just like to eat, obviously. So if there's some food and some drinks, I'm kind of good to go. You know, if the lighting is dim, that's even better. And there you are.
June, what about you? Do you like to invite your guests in and have them work with you in the kitchen? You're a big cook. June is a big home chef.
Well, I love to cook. I'm a kind of control freak. I don't like people to be in my kitchen when I'm cooking. I say, just get out. There's so many things you need to concentrate. So to me, it's almost like, for me, it's very relaxing, but at the same time, it's almost like working on a design project. You have to plan in your head what comes first and what second, and then I don't like people to make a mess in the kitchen. So I just want to make sure that everything is clean. When I'm done, everything, I don't need to have a huge cleanup, and then what course come out first, and then make sure it's keep it warm, just things like that. But I love to get invited to my friend's house for dinner, and I always love surprises. And lucky enough that all my friends are great cooks.
Or they wouldn't be your friends?
Yeah, actually a lot of them here, they are fantastic cooks. I love to go to their home, always have a great time. So, yeah.
All right. So I wanted to move a little bit into food, which is something that I'm just completely hopeless with, other than eating it. What's an entertainment-friendly type? What are good foods to serve for groups of people? Because I think we struggle with this a little bit. It's hard to be glamorous eating with your hands, And so
It is, but I think it's fun. For one thing we do at the house, we do a hand roll night, or hand rolls. So basically, I prep all the fish that can be used in hand rolls. I get seaweed. I make sushi rice. I make different sauces, and just put it all in the middle of the table, and everybody just kind of makes their own hand roll. And so my daughter, she wants this for her birthday every year. She doesn't even eat sushi, but it's the connection it makes between everybody and the fun that goes on at the table. I think besides that, it depends if you want an elegant party. There's always caviar hors d'oeuvres, you can start it off. I mean, there's ways to make it elegant, and maybe you can finish it with just simple roast chicken. Everybody loves simple roast chicken.
So then how do you handle dietary variances, like gluten-free, lactose, the
Well,
whole...
that's new, because the 1980s, sauce on the side. The 1990s, no carbs. 2000, no gluten. Well, no, there was no carbs at all, like potato, there was nothing. Now it's no gluten, so
That's true.
we adapt. And I don't use a lot of gluten, but I think people don't actually realize what's in gluten. Like, people might say they don't eat gluten, but then they eat farro. But farro is gluten. There's a lot of gluten in places we don't even realize. So.
That's kind of scary.
Tamari soy is okay, but soy sauce, it's got gluten. So there's a lot of gluten in everything we eat. Especially for celiac, you have to be really careful. That's really the big one.
So at the restaurant, you obviously,
We do
when you have
everything
your guests,
vegan,
right?
gluten-free. I mean, we have to create around it. I mean, we don't really use a lot of flour or anything in our food, so.
June, you are a world traveler and you cook all different styles of cuisine.
Yes.
But do you have any particular favorite entertainment party foods for informal or formal gatherings?
Well, I like to keep it casual. And I don't really have any theme per se. I just really, like the chef we talked earlier, sometimes I love to visit the farmer's market every weekend and really want to see what they have. Since when I travel a lot, and I took a lot of cooking classes when I travel everywhere I go, and I love all different kind of cuisine. I was in Italy a few months ago, and learned about all this fancy cooking, about making homemade pasta and all those stuff. And when I come back, I'd love to experiment them. And then because with my culture, and I try to mix in a lot of the ingredients that normally you would not combine them with the cuisine that I try to create. So.
Can you give us some examples? Of course I asked that. He's like, I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, like for example, even a simple roast chicken. Sometimes I will, or a fish.
Don't say that's so simple.
Well,
Is it just me? I don't know how to do that.
Well, it is very simple.
Okay, for you.
you know, sometimes I will, you know, instead of doing like more like a tomato confit kind of tomato sauce or anything like that, I probably will get some fresh chili and with some lemongrass and kaffir lime leaves, and I think those really go well with some salmon, especially it's in season right now. Things like that. I really like to mix in with some of the ingredients that I grown up with, that I feel familiar, and I make them into almost like comfort food.
I think another great ingredient from Asia to mix it is fermented black beans. I think it's an amazing product to use. Fermented black beans get underused. What should I say? I think a lot of times when you, like you're saying, when you travel, so many times when I travel, I come back and then I'm gonna go out and buy a whole new set of China, and I want to create a meal of what I had where I was for my friends.
Yes.
So you come back and like, oh, I'm gonna buy this, and next thing you know, your dinner party's like, you bought everything you used once and put it in the garage.
That's true. That's very true. Like recently, I just have a party in one of my, it's a new gallery that I just opened in San Francisco, and I work with this amazing chocolatier. And the first question she asked me, she said, so growing up in Malaysia, can you give me some key ingredient that I can actually incorporate into the chocolate and custom made it for the event? And so we have lemongrass chocolate, we have chili chocolate, we have kaffir lime leaves, we have ginger and chai. It was amazing, amazing. Yeah. So.
Can I get invited to your
Next time.
shameless. But I do want to ask about ingredients, because Josiah, I know you're your food philosophy is really grounded in sustainable, farm to table, the purest of best ingredients. So how do you showcase the best, the peak in season ingredients? Do you select one and the rest is sort of a supporting cast?
Yeah, I think depending on the season, right now it's peas, fava bean, asparagus, great, colors, it's all green, so everyone's green, so you need to throw in, confit tomatoes. I usually will just pick per course one I really want to showcase, and I will add things like, at the end of the year, grapefruit's nice, so at this time of year, we still have great citrus. So you throw in a little grapefruit into it, or something, whatever you might like with that flavor, you taste it, if it works, you try it. But I really try to focus on, if we're doing something with peas, if it's a pea soup, it's a pea soup, and then I'm not going to try to complicate it with anything else.
So if you're shopping at the farmer's market the day of a gathering, how does that work? Because usually the host is overstressed and just pressed for time, and how do you go to the market and be incredible in the kitchen?
I think you need to plan your menu out, and you need to read your recipes from whatever book you're cooking from, or if you wrote them down, and know every step, because nothing can be executed perfectly if you don't know exactly what you're doing. And that's, you don't have to know how to do it, you might learn as you go, but you have to know your steps and where you're going. And there's nothing when I do a dinner party that's not planned. It's nothing that I'm leaving to the wing. It might feel like it, but it's all very planned out. So everything you can get ready before what you need at the farmer's market, you have to have ready. And it's really called mise en place, is the key word in the kitchen. And to have everything completely prepped and ready to go, and then you go to the farmer's market and you get what you're going to use that day, the freshest spring vegetables, or the cauliflower, it could be anything, asparagus. You just have to work on that, but all the accompaniments are ready and you're pretty close on that. So that's what I think is important, is planning it out, knowing exactly what you're going to do. A meal starts 4 days in advance. It's not, you can't just throw it together that day, it's too hard.
Yes. June, I know that you also love to cook with in-season ingredients, and I hear there's this great tomato story that I'm dying to embarrass you into telling and shaming you into telling.
Yeah, so I got addicted to tomatoes from actually a good friend, actually standing back there. and so every year during summertime, I will go to a farm not far from San Francisco, and I'll pick a lot of fresh tomato. And last year we had picked like 180 pounds of San Marzano tomatoes, and then we spent days trying to make them into sauces. So my entire freezer right now is filled with those tomato sauce. But it's very, very handy. So anytime at the last minute I say, I'm going to throw a party to invite friends over, I can always impress them with homemade tomato sauce. You just thaw them and just throw some good pasta, and that's all you need. So
I love how you make it sound so simple, just no big deal. Christopher, since you and I are more in the let's design a great party and have the food come from another source and not tell anyone. I want to know when you're creating an event and when you're having people over, are you thinking thematically about the design? Are you thinking, I want this to be Belgium in the 1800s? You know?
That sounds great, actually.
Let's do it.
Nice party. We do think thematically. I do like to set the scene. I kind of want, well, you know, it's a lot of pressure being us, right? I mean, you guys would know, you're all in the design trade, aren't you? It's kind of a lot of work. People have pretty high expectations. So I definitely think about it thematically and, you know, what I want to convey, whether it's just a great color. I like everything to be a little brighter, a little, you know, shinier than it is in real life, although it is my real life, so I don't think of it as being fake, but I do want to transport people and give them an experience. Absolutely.
So does that incorporate your choice, literally your choice of everything, your choice of materials? Excuse me. Got a little excited about that. The tabletop and the candles, and what are your kind of essentials for when you're setting a table, setting a stage?
My essentials, definitely hundreds of tea light candles. I don't think you can have enough, so I do love tea light candles. Whenever we entertain, we always have a signature cocktail. My husband actually was he worked all through school as a bartender, so he always makes a signature cocktail. So our last holiday party, we had 2 martinis. We had a gingerbread martini and a peppermint martini. And so he works on the recipe the whole week before, so I have to be the guinea pig. It's terrible. It's so much work. So we always have usually a cocktail that really sets the stage. I like using real linens and, you know, real silverware. It's just not that much harder. You know, there's these things called, you know, washing machines and, you know, dishwashers. I don't think it's a lot more work to use, you know, real linens and real silver, and, you know, and then you're not going to put it in landfill. So it's just a win-win-win. So those are some of my little.
And then do you always entertain at the table, or do you take it outside? Are you sitting on the floor? Are you in a tent? Like what?
We're usually outside. I have a fairly large outdoor space at my home in Palm Springs, so we're not usually at the table. It's usually more casual. We usually have more people than that, so it's not usually a sit-down dinner. We had a brunch a couple Sundays ago, and it was just kind of everyone went, you know, where they went. Some folks sat at the table, other folks just sat inside, sat outside. The food magically happened. I'm not really sure how.
Arrived.
Place to call. Yeah, the food arrived. So I just set the stage.
So do you feel like there's a kind of a more modern version of casual entertaining that's going on right now?
I mean, I think it should look effortless and graceful. I don't think it should be necessarily casual, but I do like it to be comfortable. So, you know, and just using real silver, real china, like I said.
You know, it's funny that you asked the question. Recently, I was in France for the Maison of J show in Paris, and I visited so many like so-called great restaurants. And all the chefs used to work for these, you know, 2-3 star Michelin restaurant. That it's like took up the whole day to try to get prepared just to go there for a meal. But they all really started to do more casual dining, like open up a lot of really fantastic, just casual bistro food. In fact, they really abandoned all this really old tradition, you know, having this really fine linens and formal dining. You that get dressed up. You know, one of my favorite restaurants, the chef was used to be this 2-3 star Michelin chef that decided just want to do some really casual but delicious food. So I think the trend is really going towards more casual.
More casual. Josiah, what do you think about that? Because you are in a position to really showcase your struggling.
I don't have a casual restaurant. And I think that too much of anything is not good. So if it's too far one way, not good. If it's too far the other way. I like the casual places. I like the places you're talking about in Paris, like Agape Substance and the Comptoir.
Yes, the Comptoir.
The Comptoir. There's a lot of places that it's great. The new. I think it's casual, but it's not. I mean, you used the perfect word. It's say it again. You said it was perfect. It's gracious. It's not casual, but it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not it's comfortable, and I think that France had to change, and it's great they did because it was so old style. It was so stuffy. But I think if we go too far in this, what it took to put on a great evening and to treat people like royalty will be gone. There'll be no one to teach it to the next generation, and that scares me. And I see 10 years from now, how people cook is not going to be as good as TV chef. 2 years, I'm a chef. I mean, the training is really important, I think, as in designing. And obviously there's certain people that have amazing eye taste and they can do it, but not everybody can just skip the 10 years of work it takes. And
I think they have to master the basic techniques.
Exactly.
And once you master that, then you could, explore in all different
That's my
arenas.
only fear about losing all those great establishments, is that down the road, where are people going to go to learn and to learn those amazing techniques? So there has to be a balance of both.
So, is there ever a time for a formal meal? Do you feel like there's a right occasion for a formal meal?
I guess it's every night. We're pretty full every night. I mean, I think it's an anniversary, it's a birthday, but I wouldn't say Melisse is a restaurant that is 100% old French style. I mean, we're a French restaurant, but I'd say we're modern French. It doesn't stuffy. We don't have the whole thing, but it's still classic in a lot of ways. That evening of going out, and to really feel like you had an experience. That you were treated like kings and queens. That's really experience of kings and queens.
It's having casual. I don't think that it doesn't mean that you have to get all dressed up. For example, I have a client I work with. He is a scientist and he's not a chef or any professional, but he insists that every night when he have dinner, he just want to have only drinking water from crystal and only have to use sterling silver for all his meal. But it's just to him, it's a very natural, very simple luxury for him. And he just want to enjoy that little luxury they have. So.
Well, Christopher, I know obviously you champion the casual entertaining, but do you bring out the beautiful, bespoke tabletop and the really elegant serving pieces, or is it okay to kind of mix it all?
Oh, I like to mix it up. I mean, at my own home, I use things from my mother mixed with some great plates from West Elm that happen to match my house, fabulously. So I don't think it has to necessarily be the most expensive thing, but I just think it has to be thoughtful and fun and gracious. And absolutely, I mean, every day should be an occasion. Why should you wait? Because you might never get that experience. I mean, any night that we're not eating in front of the television, and I mean, let's admit it. I mean, who here eats in front of the television a lot of nights? I'll admit it, because that's all we have time for. So if you actually have an occasion that you can sit down together as a family, then make it nice. Absolutely, make it wonderful.
Well, most of the people out there, they like to keep all their fine china and sterling silver all in the cupboard, and you don't really use them. Maybe you only use them once a year, if that. It's like, why? If you have all this, you should just enjoy them and just, every day, make it into every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So I think we can open it up to questions. If there are any questions from the audience for our esteemed panel.
Actually, a question, but I'd like you to comment on what you touched on before about formal training in terms of being a chef, because we're experiencing the same thing, gone in the design industry. You get a TV show, you're the hottest thing on the block. You did it yesterday, and you maybe missed some of the training and background. And I thought it'd be interesting that you could comment further on that.
I just want to, for those in the back who didn't hear, the question is a great one in terms of how in the design industry there's this sort of fast track to television, exactly, and somewhat parallel to what Josiah was saying about the lack of training, but chefs all of a sudden are anointed great chefs, and if you could kind of speak about that a little bit more.
Well, I think television is personality. That's what makes you great in the television. There's a whole team of people behind you making all this happen. So for chefs, and no one tastes the food they make. So if they have a good personality, it's great. There are some great ones out there, Mario Batali and Lagasse. The first crew of this, amazing. The second wave is scary. So what we're going to do about it, I don't know, because like you said, it's not only in cooking, it's design, it's gardening, it's everything that gets popular on TV. And then I think now we don't notice it because we still have the old guard keeping it going. But in 10 years, 15 years, it's going to be a disaster. That's my
I
opinion.
thought your show's coming up Bravo soon.
If I get it, it'll be there, but it will be quality.
Okay.
I don't think they ever put me on Bravo. It's too much. It's not for that.
Next time, yeah. Not that you're not.
I refuse to do those shows. Like that. I'll judge. That's it. I'll just judge.
Just curious, have any of you done the menus for your dinner parties? Because I see those in cookbooks and they're, artfully illustrated and, the menu for the evening for your guests. And I don't know if it feels too contrived and not natural to you. Have any of you used those?
Well, for me, it's once in a while. When I'm trying to, impress a guest, then maybe. But other than that, I don't. I don't know about you.
I have a calligrapher who will do it on occasion, but it's pretty rare. So, but she makes it look really good. So absolutely, yeah.
So I have a daughter. She always comes up with something kind of clever, like writes it on. She does really clever different things for the menu. She likes to do that. But in the restaurant, obviously, we have to have elegant, drawn-out menus. But even if you look at menus now, a lot has changed too. It says black bass, yu choy, chanterelles, bonito. It's not really elaborated anymore in restaurants. Adverbs, people get scared of adverbs.
This is for June, being the control freak that you are. Do you seek your guests or do you let them sit where they want to be?
That's actually a really interesting question for June. Being kind of a little bit of a control freak, does he allow his guests to sit where they like, or does he assign the seats?
No, I do. I let them sit where they want to sit, as long as I see. Always close the kitchen so that I can always run back to the kitchen to do more things. But no, I let them. Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question for you. Is the meal prepared before your guests get there, or do you have someone who's entertaining while you're still in the kitchen? Like, who's sort of taking care of the guests while you're, finishing the meal?
I try to juggle both, I think. Yeah. I try to plan.
I can't even boil water, so that's really impressive.
Like I just we just talked earlier, and I say, recently I just got this new machine. It's called. Apparently, with him, he said he used it 10 years ago.
No, I still use it. I have a fixed machine.
So, and I love this called sous vide machine. And so you just kind of vacuum pack everything that in there and just let it cook slowly. While then you can entertain your guests and everything. And I found that this really fantastic. And the meal come out perfect.
Is that called a crock pot? Or?
No.
Immersion circulator.
Yeah.
Immersion circulator. A fancy word for a crock pot.
Yes. But there's a lot of great equipment out there too, besides that you can use to keep yourself warm. And there's bread drawers, the heat drawers, great for heat everything, put them inside, keeps it warm.
I think we have a question in the back. I'm sorry, we'll get to you.
What would be the biggest entertaining no-no?
It's a great question. What is the biggest entertaining no-no?
Be late to your own party?
Empty glasses of wine.
Yeah, exactly. Like not having enough, I think. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is not having enough of something. People really wanting.
Yeah, I would say that will be it. Or either you come up with something that's not, like, things are half cooked, or so you don't want to serve something like that.
And
but
bright lighting.
It's a mood killer.
Actually a simple thing, people always talk about like centerpiece for the table. I hate a big, enormous, gigantic centerpiece in the middle that you couldn't see your guests and you couldn't talk to the guests. And that's something that I really do not like. Yeah.
I think that just the beginning is the most important. When people arrive, is to create that warm feeling and that comfortable feeling, and that really sets the tone of the night. So I think if you nail the beginning, the rest of the night's perfect. You can mess up the rest.
That's great. I think we had another question over here.
I was supposed to sort of follow up on your warming drawers, etc. If your client doesn't have one and you need to hold something in an oven, what's the perfect temperature so that you're not overdoing it? So just keep it nicely.
I think that it's the lowest it'll go, and it's how you wrap it. And see, the great thing about the warming drawers is if you have little crocks or little deli cups, you can put them in. You can put a lot of things in there. A lot of different.
Do you have more tricks like that you could share?
There's lots of tricks. It depends. Ronco rotisserie at home for rotisserie chickens. If you're doing 4 people, and then you have a chicken. If you have a small party, cook your potatoes right under it. It holds it. You can keep it turning. Potatoes cook. Like in France, you see under the rotisserie, from the dripping to the chicken, the potatoes cook in there. Ronco rotisserie, yes. I mean, if you can build one in here, like design it in better than a Ronco rotisserie, I think I see a lot of this. I mean, if you don't have it, it's hard. A lot of the Gaggenau stuff is really made to. It's really temperature controlled. It's amazing what it can do in settings, and the steam ovens and the combi ovens really help when they have inject a little steam, so it keeps everything moist and juicy.
But you know, I do love what you talk about going back to basics. One of my great experience about a year and a half ago, I went to a region in Italy named Puglia, and I took a cooking class there, and I stayed in this really special convento, and they served me. I learned cooking every day with the chef, and they would take me down to the market and learn about all different kind of ingredients. We would go to the fava bean field to harvest all those, and then when they cook the meat for me, you would see one of the pictures. They actually just grilled it in a fireplace, and the same fireplace that it kept me warm. So, and it's incredible, everything that they do there, and it's really fantastic. And I truly believe that. I think the trend is really going back to basics.
Well, I think that's what happens. I mean, you have the sous vide machine, right? But then everybody takes it and drops a bag in the water.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you take it out, it's the same everywhere. So every restaurant has the same salmon. It takes away the excitement of something a little different. And now, I think that when you start, I think chefs were going that way, so all the chefs that don't have the training, it's gonna be really hard for them to cook on their, to cook under the embers if you don't have that training to understand what's happening, so.
Are there any other questions? Oh, yeah.
Well, this is more of a question about restaurant design, but how do you feel about having this big open kitchen? We recently went out to dinner, we had this 10-course meal, and we sat in the kitchen. And so we got a chance to sort of talk to everybody on the front line and talk to the chef. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, I love to cook, but I know some chefs are like, what happens in the kitchen stays in the kitchen, and this is all about show and performance. And
The theater of it, yeah.
what's your feeling about that?
Well, I have a few things to say about it. I think that it is great for the experience of the guest, but it's not a fine dining experience. So there's two different things going on there. You have a 10-course menu in a not the right lighting, it's all not right. So how much is being enjoyed in the food and how much is getting distracted by the ambiance? So I think if you create the right ambiance in the right area, I think it's great. I don't believe what stays in the kitchen. I mean, if you don't treat your people nice, and the restaurants, you're gonna have a big turnover, the restaurant won't be great either. So that's what they mean, whatever stays in the kitchen. The language, sometimes bad language. But I think it's a nice experience. I mean, I think if it's the right ambiance, it's great. The old open kitchens, I think those are loud and banged a lot of pots. I think that if you have the right counter or something to create a nice ambiance in the kitchen, I think the Chinois in Maine had a great counter that was looked in the kitchen at the time. It's so revolutionary back then. So I think it's good. It depends. For me, it depends, but guests love it. So
I personally suggest that everybody should have an open mind. Should go out and try things. Clearly this WESTWEEK is about design, it's about food, how they relate to each other. For me personally, I felt that every time when I travel, the first thing to a foreign country, first thing I visit, it's actually the local market. When you visit the local market, that's when you really got to understand the local culture, the history, what they eat, how they live, and that's when you got a lot of inspiration from that.
Are there any nightmare scenarios that any of you have experienced as hosts, entertainers, home chefs? I love asking this question because you're all human, and I just want to know that you all make mistakes. So is there anything particularly dreadful or soul-crushing?
The most recent one, someone hired me to cook at their house, catering party, and my family would go to Mammoth for a week, but I stayed because they wanted me to cook there, so I stayed to cook. And I do something, it's a truffle egg, and I didn't realize they had all these other ovens, so it's a really technical preparation, and I put them all in one oven knowing that this probably won't work, but let me try it. And it didn't work. So I had to think fast. So I had to create a whole new dish, and luckily, that's where preparation comes in, because I had already heated the second course up. It was ready to go, so I served the second course first, and I made it, I switched it around. So that's I was like, this is it. Sometimes these, I'm like, this is it. They're never gonna hire me back. It's a pretty big customer. I'm done. And then pull it off. So I think when you have that horror story, stay calm, cool, and collective. Never show your surprise. And then you just kind of work your way through it.
Do you, no, Christopher?
Better.
I never.
No, he's perfect.
He is perfect.
I had a brunch a couple weekends ago, actually, for some magazine folks who were in town in Palm Springs, so I threw a brunch in their honor, and it was the weekend of the time change. So perhaps you can see where I'm going with this. So it was a Sunday brunch, and I saw on the news, on the internet, spring forward, change your clocks, but I went out to a nice dinner Saturday with some friends and just came home and didn't change my clocks, and the brunch was at 11. And I thought, okay, you know, I'll get up at 7 to get ready and do everything. But I stayed in bed with my puppy until 8. I think he's in the picture, so I like slept in. Then I took the dog for a walk, and I got back like 8:30, 8:45. Thought I would call the caterer to check on everything, and thank God for iPhones. I look at my phone, and it's 9:45, and everyone's arriving at 11. And Modern Flora, some fabulous florists who are good friends of mine that works upstairs at Thomas Lavin this week, like they had nicely brought like a whole bucket of flowers, and they said, oh, do you want us to like arrange it for you? And so I'm like, no, I can arrange the flowers. So it's 9:45, the flowers are in buckets in the garage, you know, nothing is done. But again, as you said, just kind of keep calm and carry on, and I just, you know, threw the flowers in, and it looked just really effortless and easy, and, you know, color massing, and luckily it all got done, but it was a bit of a race to the finish.
It always feels like that, right?
Yeah.
5 minutes before people walk through the door. I love it. Do we have any other questions? We just have a few more minutes. Oh, go
I
ahead.
have a question for the chef regarding, like, if you're designing a kitchen for your clients and they want it aesthetic aside, but they want a recommendation, often they haven't had an opportunity to try a Montaigne, La Pro, you know, many different kinds of ranges. So if you were to if you were building a kitchen today, not for like the most sophisticated chef, but for the average chef, what would you recommend in terms of cooktop and range?
Well, I think I like.
And then what would you build for yourself today?
Well, myself, I would build an open fire inside. No, I would like with the Molteni, you know, folding into it. I think that, you know, I'm a big proponent of induction heat. I think it's great, and I think it's because of maybe pans. You need certain pans, and people get a little scared of it. But it doesn't burn the sides of a pan. It heats instantly. It stops instantly. So I would definitely have a part that's induction, and I would have a little bit that's also gas. I'd kind of mix it in. And I like ovens that are underneath the stove. I don't like when you turn around. To me, it's tough because I get lost in kitchens like that. I'm used to what I do in a restaurant. It's underneath, it's here. I think a griddle or some kind of area is great because, so this is if you're going to entertain, so, you know.
Right, but I meant in terms of brand, like what, like, because some people say that one was too sophisticated for like
a brand.
Yeah, in terms of brand.
Brand, well, I mean, I could say that I look at my friend helped with the Gaggenau stuff, Hans Rockerwagner, German gentleman. I think the stuff he has at I think it's great. I have a J Dynasty stove in my house, which is probably what I think is the best. I go to a lot of houses, and they say they're professional stoves, but they're not. So it's really difficult on finding which way you go. And, you know, I know that Viking does a nice job, but they're not very deep. So then, like, it depends. If you're gonna have chefs come over your house and then they bring sheet pans, and some of these stoves, they don't fit sheet pans, and it doesn't work. So I think, you know, brand-wise, my stove at J Dynasty, I think it's the best one out there. I don't even know if they make them anymore, if they're doing it.
Don't you agree that for somebody who is not professional, I think aesthetic sometimes is important?
I think aesthetics, that's what I think it comes aesthetically, becomes the biggest, I mean, it's hard. The functionality, the aesthetics, because sometimes they don't go together. Sometimes they do.
But for her, she might want to, you know, ask your client and see what kind of aesthetic do you want.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, obviously, the client will have the image of, I want it all to match, I want it all to be, you know, Viking. But I'm saying that aside, because obviously the designers control over the rest of the aesthetic, so often that can be a little bit more utilitarian as well.
Well, it's difficult for me to say which brand is great, because what I cook on at home is one thing, and then when I cook on it at the restaurant, it's professional, so I don't get a lot of time trying to test it. And sometimes if I go to someone's home, they might have a brand, if I cook in a catering party, they could have a brand, they didn't take care of it and it just doesn't work good. So then I can judge it. I don't want to judge something. And I can talk about what I have in my house, how it works. I think
especially if you're looking for something that is super clean, super modern, that it's only a limited brand out there that actually offer you that kind of seamless design. And so if your client's looking for, I want really out there professional stove, and yes, then like Viking, those are good. Wolf, those are great brand to have. But if you want something that is really modern, really clean, then something like Gargano. Yeah, with the induction, it comes up completely seamlessly.
Induction is the big takeaway. Thank you so much. We need to wrap this up, and I'd like to invite you all to the wonderful book signing that Josiah is going to be conducting over there for his first book, In Pursuit of Excellence. Thank you for being a fabulous audience.
Thank you all very much.